am your friend, Bran.
I'm your friend too.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Backlog Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel. I'm joined by my homemade co-host, Tanner Dykstra. And today, we're going to be talking about Brian and Charles, a new movie that I think will go under the radar very far. Frankly, don't expect this review to get that many views, but I'm very excited to talk about Brian and Charles because this is my kind of movie. But if you want to talk to us about Brian and Charles, you should leave a comment in the description. But if you want to talk to us personally, you can join our Discord. That link is at the top of the description. And while you're in the bottom of the video, you can subscribe to the channel, you can like this video, and you can ring the bell, all of which give me immense joy. But so did Brian and Charles. Tanner, give me your first top-level thoughts on Brian and Charles.
Brian and Charles is just a delightful picture, you know, Tucker. Just a really fun, cute, a little quirky, little fun time. It is, I think the two actors obviously do a great job. It is very grounded, it is very simple, and it is all the better for it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is if you go up on YouTube and you look up Brian and Charles trailer, you watch that trailer, that is exactly what you're getting. It does not deviate. It does not necessarily try anything new. It does not necessarily put a spin on itself, but I think that's okay. And where I think that the movie is at its strongest is when it is feeling focused. It's very concise. It's very focused on these characters, on the world around them, and having a very unique, simple tone that really resonated with me because I think that the strongest part of this are our two main characters, Brian and Charles. I don't know the actors' names off the top of my head, but I think that the writing and the delivery and performances between the both of them are so perfectly done that these characters are so incredibly charming that I was not ready for this film to be over. At the end of this film, not really a spoiler. No one really cares about spoilers for Brian and Charles, but yeah. Charles is going off around the world to visit Rome and France and Honolulu. And I wanted to see that movie because I just did not want to stop seeing these characters and hearing their lines and seeing their relationship and world expand.
Yeah, I totally agree. Our two main actors are David Earl as Brian and Chris Hayward as Charles.
Yep.
And they do have this really strong dynamic. I mean, I have to compliment the performances, but also the writing. It is this dynamic that is somewhere in between, friendship and a father and son sort of kinship. It runs the gamut of all these relationships, and it's a man and his robot that he created as a solution to his his hermithood and loneliness.
Yes.
And all the montages of them like doing their fun little childish activities, whether that's spraying each other with weed killer or, playing sword fights with sticks they found in the yard or whatever.
Yep.
It's all just endlessly fun and joyous and everything like that. I mean, obviously you have to introduce the conflict with Brian wants to protect Charles, but Charles wants to go out and explore the world. But Brian, doesn't want to lose his best friend in the town that he's been born in and lived in his entire life. And B, fears for Charles's life because he doesn't want to. The outside world is perilous and dangerous, and as we see with the villains of this movie, the random British family, which I assume all British people are like.
And of course we jest, but I think that Brian in his distinctness is what makes this movie so compelling. Is this film is lightly framed around a mockumentary style. It's a guy filming Brian and how interesting he is, what a character he is, going off into his shed, making weird things that he just comes up with on a whim, and he's always upbeat and positive and saying, hey, well, a door closes, another one opens, and there's a whole bit about that is very funny. But his commitment to that personality and the film's focus on his personality and how that is being pushed against by Charles is why this film is so compelling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brian's oddity as this like lone wacky inventor guy, and Charles's also oddity, but like inexperience, as a sort of fish out of water character who
Hmm.
knows what some things are but doesn't know how the world works and things like that. He'll rattle off a dictionary explanation of what a parrot is whenever when a parrot is brought up to him. Yeah, I mean the dynamic is what really sells this film. The comedy is also reliant on that
Yeah.
dynamic. This film was very funny, got quite a few chuckles out of us and the other people in our theater.
Yeah, and I think that their dynamic feels unique because of what you were mentioning earlier. It's sort of like a blend between different relationship dynamics that we've
Mm,
seen in other films. It's almost a guy and his really happy dog movie because
mm,
Charles acts like a puppy sometimes. He's a child. He hasn't experienced the world. He's dancing and getting excited
yeah,
when Brian
what,
comes home.
yes,
But
yes,
then he also transitions into an angsty teen
yes, yes.
later on in the film, and watching that dynamic change on a dime between scenes is really fun. It shows you so many sides of both of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, and the conflict arises when Charles becomes that sort of angsty teen. It's largely because, well, A, because Brian won't let him go out into the world, but B, because that Brian is starting to open up a little bit more and bloom as a social flower
Yeah.
and letting the love interest Hazel into his life a little bit.
Hmm.
They start spending time together and excluding Charles, and that's
Yeah.
what really drives us into the third act of the film, which is quite interesting and fun. A fun little the third act is just a fun little mean guy gets his comeuppance
Yes.
is what the ultimate payoff of this movie is.
Hmm. Yeah, and in that simplicity, it is what you expect. If you're watching this trailer and you're like, this doesn't seem like it's for me, and you hear what we're saying of that it doesn't really take itself past any level that you're expecting, I can easily see why this film would be underwhelming for
Hmm.
people. I think that you just need to perfectly set your expectations. And for me, watching this trailer and seeing a guy make a funny robot with a head that goes up and down and a
Hmm.
washing machine for a stomach, perfect. That's exactly for me. And I like the way that the film doesn't linger on any of its more like science fiction, quote unquote,
Hmm.
elements. Brian makes Charles. That's it. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know why.
Yeah.
Charles is it just exists, and he's obviously a guy in a box, but
Yeah.
doesn't matter. He's a robot. The film is committed to that,
Hmm.
and then he goes off around the world, and it never like gives any like serious depth to these things. But I think because it is just so committed to this is the way things are, I was really easily able to buy into its
Yeah.
reality.
What you see is what you get with Brian and Charles.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Tucker, what would you give Brian and Charles out of 10?
Brian and Charles for me is going to be an 8 out of 10 because as I said, this film resonated with me. It is exactly what I wanted out of the film, and it's exactly what I got.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 for me too. Same reasons. Very nice, very joyful. It's a great one to like if you want to go out with your friends to go see a fun movie or your parents or whatever. This is a mass audience appeal sort of movie.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, not a lot of people are going to go see it, probably
No,
likely. But they deserve to. Maybe it'll get a second life on streaming or somewhere. But yes, eight
hopefully.
out of ten for me as well.
And that will do it for our review of Brian and Charles. Stick around for more movie reviews. This is a big week for movies, and we're going to be covering a lot of things. But thank you for listening to this review, and we will see you guys in the future.